Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And Ron, we got episode 180.
180!
Would you say that was darts?
Yes, that's the perfect score for a round of darts.
Ah, okay.
If you're throwing the 3 darts, it's triple 20s, so that's what you want, and it adds up to 180.
Wow, you really hit that right in the bullseye today, so...
Thank you very much. Please tip your waitress, and I'll try the veal.
All righty. Hey, ways to get a hold of us on the Digital to Dice show. Incidentally, I'm always looking up things, Ron, on how to promote the show and how to make a better podcast and the whole bit. And one thing they say is obviously give the contact info and then talk about the show. That's one thing we never talk about at the beginning of the show. So if anybody is brand new listening here, they have no idea what the show's about. All the regulars do, but new people don't. So for today, I'll just say Digital to Dice, we talk about a lot of sports gaming, tabletop gaming, PC gaming, and the whole bit.
The best darn podcast on the web for your sports simulation and replay needs. Find us today on Spotify, Spreaker, iTunes, or wherever else fine podcasts are listed.
That's pretty good. Yeah,
that's not the first time you've heard that.
No, but that sums it all up here. Because a lot of times we do the show, we realize that we
only done 1,000 streams with that as my open.
Yes,
so.
you have. Yes, you have. So this is a show 180 of Digital to Dice, and it's all the things that he just said, by the way. Ways to get a hold of us: digitaltodice.com is the website. 978-751-DICE is the text line, the dice line. Send us a text. digitaltodice@yahoo.com is the best way to get a hold of us. We both answer that email over there.
Yep.
Over on Facebook, we have a group, facebook.com/groups/digital to dice.
Closing in on 1,400 members, by the way.
Yeah, I remember when we had 200, we were all excited,
It's a huge deal, yeah.
Yeah. And if you'd like to support the show on Patreon, it's patreon.com/digital to dice, and Patreon is Patreon. And we do have a new Patreon this week, and we'll be shouting out to him later on. But thank you so much. We have, we just asked $2 a month or $5 a month to help support the show, to pay some of the bills and help keep things going over here. And we appreciate everybody that does that, because it's a busy show.
Yes.
This is not just a once a week, an hour thing. We are constantly talking with people and helping people with their games and sending files out, and we're pretty active in the community, so we appreciate the support, because it's more than just a podcast. It really is. It's a big community, and we're busy in that community, so to speak, and we enjoy it. So anyway, so on episode 180, we're going to talk about how deep are your stats. We're going to talk about stats today. How deep do you go keeping them?
Wasn't that a Bee Gees stat song? How deep are your stats? How deep are your stats?
It probably was. And I'm a Bee Gees guy, and I should know that. That's probably on a B-side or something.
No, actually, it's a song they got sued for.
Oh, really?
How deep is your love?
Oh, wow.
They were actually taken to court and lost.
Oh.
The song that was supposedly taken from was pretty darn close, same melody and beat behind it. I'm not sure that but yeah, was How Deep Is Your Love.
Wow, did not know that.
It's 12:39, 21 minutes to 1 on the Digital Dice podcast.
Yeah, and you just learned a whole bunch of Bee Gees stuff.
That's right. 52 degrees in town. Weather's been weird. Today was a day I thought my wife and I were going to go out to lunch, because it's supposed to be 75 at some point. Well, it's not 75 at a point where we're going to be able to go out. We had 88 last Friday?
Yes, it was ridiculously hot last week. We had a fire warning. We had a fire watch over here.
So did we all last weekend.
Yeah.
We had snow overnight.
Oh.
It didn't stick on Monday night or Tuesday night. So you wake up and it's 34 degrees and it's spitting snow out. 3 days after, it was 88 degrees. Springtime in New England.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
At least the runners had a good weather for the marathon down there.
Yeah, they did. My cousin ran that. He lives in Colorado, but he flew back home, and he's been training. He's been running crazy stuff, and he ran it. Good for him.
Did you see where Zdeno Chara ran that in 3.5 hours?
Jeepers, yeah. Yeah, he did well. Wow.
I mean, that's impressive.
Hockey players have good cardio. You know?
I would think so.
So, yeah.
It would be the endurance, though. I mean, 26 miles and change, that's a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would think soccer players would do well, too, because of all the running and what they do. So, yeah, I did see that. That was pretty darn cool.
Yeah. Really anyway, you were going to say.
Yeah. No. So, anyway, so we're going to talk about stats today, keeping stats. How deep do you go in stats? Do you even keep stats in a whole bit? So we're going to do a deep dive into stats today. We already got the weather out of the way. So I suppose we could get into what we're playing?
Sure.
You want to take it away?
Sure. Let's see. My 2001 Action PC Season Odyssey replay is almost at the All-Star break. One more stream before that. And it's interesting to see what you think is going to happen compared to what's actually happened. We're in the second round of Interleague, and the Chicago White Sox are almost at the best record in all of baseball, which is not what should have happened. It should be the Mariners by a mile, and then Oakland, and then the Yankees. But no, right now it's the White Sox world, and we're just allowed to live there.
Wow.
Atlanta has underplayed, and Arizona has underplayed. Now, granted, we do a fair amount of those games, but I shouldn't be that. I'm not that bad of a manager to be messing up their playoff chances. If you got the good pitching, you can obviously do stuff with it, and if you can't, that's the age-old problem with bullpen, baseball. What to do with bullpens? So we've had a lot of fun with that, and so the All-Star game will be from Seattle next Wednesday night in prime time for 2001. Been playing some of my Status Pro. I wouldn't call it the greatest hits league. 12 teams that I like, and I had a game between the 2017 Washington Nationals and the 2018 Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, Orange County, California, Beverly Hills, and Status Pro. The guy that invented it must have been an Napa fan. I mean, if you're familiar with Status Pro baseball, if you roll to see or flip a card to see who gets control of the at-bat, the pitcher or the batter. And the worst pitchers, it's a 2-5, and the best pitchers, it's a 2-9. Mm-hmm. And so that definitely is APA influenced, and pitchers can only give up singles for hits. Everything else is on the batter's card, any extra base hits, just like APA. But man, when you have a pitcher that's struggling, you can't get on his own card, it is bombs away. And in fact, in this particular game, the Nationals beat the Angels and Shohei Ohtani 23-4.
Wow. Yeah, that's nuts.
Trey Turner scored 6 runs leading off for the Nationals. I don't think I've ever had a game that anyone has scored 6 times. Just crazy. But and you get all those home run chances, and you flip the random number cards. I'm really enjoying that. It's not meant to be a criticism of the game. And anytime you take teams out of their own stock environment, the results can get rather wonky, especially when you play a bunch of. They're all good teams. There's not really a clunker in the bunch, but yeah, you could really tell when you get on those. If you can't get on the pitcher's cards, you are in a world of hurt. I was so excited to have an Ohtani game where he pitched and was the DH. He didn't get out of the first as a pitcher, and he lined into 2. And I think he either lined into or grounded into 2 double plays as a batter.
Ooh, wow!
It'd be like going to whatever the chain restaurant that we don't have in our neck of the woods, and it finally opens up, and you get through the lines and get whatever the meal is, and it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, you get all excited for that, and then it's like,
wow.
Yeah, disappointed.
And there's that. Let's see, what else have I played for sports? Not much. Not much. I've been doing the gyms and the Eve and stuff like that. Hopefully we'll be doing some stuff over the weekend. But for now, that's pretty much it.
I've had an adventurous time playing.
Yes, you have.
Yeah, I had my birthday this week, and so I went out and what we tried to do is we tried to go out and take a ride up to New Hampshire. There's a couple of board game places, so I says I want to get up there and see if I can find a couple of games that we can play for board game night, or have some people over, or even just me and her play something, because she is not going to want to play the sports. And we hit nothing but traffic on 2:30 on a Wednesday, and we got home about 6 o'clock, and of the 2:30 to 6 o'clock ride, we probably spent 20 minutes in the stores. The rest of it was sitting in traffic. And we get home and we were fit to be tied. It was just like, wow, never do that again. Just, that is just so terrible. That was such a bummer, So, but I did pick up a couple of games. I picked up this one called Tiny Epic Defenders. It's a little card game. You don't even roll any dice. It's all with moves and cards, and you're defending the city, and you have all these areas around the city that is getting attacked, and if they fall, then every time that gets attacked again, now it starts affecting the main city. And so it's just a really fun, laid back game. Very different, many different difficulty levels. And I did an unboxing, and I played it all day, and I actually did a quick video on it on the channel. And it's just fun. It's just a nice little break from the sports games where you got your character, and you're like, okay, I got 3 turns. What am I going to do? Am I going to go attack the wolves? Am I going to get up to the mountains and defend the mountains, or am I going to go to town and heal myself? It's just very simple. And
it's almost like a one-deck dungeon type deal.
Kind of, sort of. Yeah, it's in that same vein. It's called Tiny Epic Defenders, and I think there's 12 Tiny Epic games. They got Tiny Epic Zombies. They got a Western. They got a space game, Galaxies. They got Pirates. Vikings. They have everything in this game, and they're all a little different, because I got the Galaxies game, and it's very different than a Defenders game, but they're still kind of fun, and you can play solo mode for most of these things as well. So yeah, I played something a little bit different on the channel. Let's see. I played another game in my shootout hockey Cleveland Barons replay, as they took on the Capitals and they beat them. So the Barons are now, I think they're 1-1 on the season.
Did you score yet?
No, but I had a chance to score, and I did not.
You are on that team, right? Yeah,
I am on that team. Yep. But the Barons are now 1-1. So I'm kind of just chipping away at that off to the side. The shootout hockey is kind of a fun little thing. Let me see. I did play some Hockey Bones the other night. In fact, I don't know if I didn't stream it. I just played it. So I decided to play the 80-81 North Stars. I'm going to play their playoffs. I think they got to the finals that year. They overachieved and got to the finals. Well, they overachieved all right, because in the first round, they actually swept Boston, okay? And in my replay, Boston's got them down 0-2. So it could be a very, very quick.
It's a short, tiny project.
Yeah, it's got to be a small project. It could be a 3-game project instead of a 20-game project. So I've been playing some Hockey Bones. I did play on my birthday night. I did stream some Appa Hockey, a game I've been wanting to play for a while. The 92-93 Maple Leafs Kings Game 7 in Toronto, the Gretzky game. We all remember that when they advanced to the Stanley Cup Finals with that slim win in Toronto. I played that out, and Toronto hung on for the win in that one there. So the question is, since Toronto won that game, do I now go play the finals, Toronto-Montreal, 92-93?
I would.
I think I might. I think that might be something fun to do. See how that what-if Stanley Cup played out.
I think on paper, Toronto would be better that year than Montreal. Montreal got so lucky, and they won all those overtime games.
Somebody posted on the Appa page on Facebook. Let me see if I can find it real quick. And he said he played that season with the Leafs, okay?
Yep.
And let me see. Was it Ken Blackley? Okay, Ken Blackley posted that he's a Leafs fan. I'm sorry, Ken. Was sorry, but where's the But he said he did that replay with Appa, and the Leafs won it all. So congratulations, Ken, to the Leafs in his replay.
They're quite capable of winning it all. I think, honestly, they didn't get past the Kings. But I think, in reality, I think Detroit was probably their toughest opponent.
Yeah, that was a fun playoff series that year. Yeah. That's why I got that season. So I might do that. Appa Hockey, Leafs and Canadians 92-93 Cup Finals. And lastly, I've been really digging my new 1978 Appa baseball season. I'm playing the 78 Sox. They're off to a red-hot start for me. I think they're 5-1 maybe. So they got off to a really, really good start in 78. So I'm just kind of playing that offline app of baseball. So I'm really enjoying my app of baseball again. I've kind of come back to that and really enjoying it. And who knows? We may have somebody from Appa on the show.
You never know.
You never know. You never know how that works out. So anyway, so that's what I've been playing, a whole bunch of stuff here. A couple of bigger products, a couple of smaller products, and a little adventure game. So I've been having a little bit of fun with everything here. So should we get on to the topic of the day?
Go right ahead.
All righty. So we were talking about stats the other day, and I don't know if I was on Delphi, if I was on Facebook, and there were people talking about, keeping stats and how they do it. And, you got some people saying, I'm enjoying, Digital Diamond, because that's what I use for my stats. And, that's a great board game companion. Other people saying that, they play Strat, and they use Strat. And other people, PC Replay. There's a handful of, computer companions that'll keep stats for you. Some other people are
the standard Excel.
Excel is the way to go for them, and they enjoy that. And then there's still yet other people that
notebooks,
pen and paper all the way for their stats. So we want to talk a little bit about that today, and also we want your feedback on that. And what got me thinking about that is when I play some of my products, it really all depends on what the project is. As it relates to the stats that I keep. I even tried, I think I was playing I don't know if it was shootout hockey or if it was Downey hockey, and I played the 79-80 playoffs. I want to say it was
Ultra Quick.
I want to say it was final score, and then I used Ultra Quick to get my stats. And so I was playing the games quickly, they play quick, but then I was trying to get my stats, and I was rolling for stats, and I was getting my stats, and I was keeping my stats. I don't even think I finished the first round of games, and I kind of just gave up on the stats. It was just taking so long. And then by the time you get into the second round, I mean, it's less stats because there's less games, but it's like, so you've kept all these stats for teams that played 3 games or less, well, no, they would play 4. I'm sorry, they would play 4. But I mean, it's just like you're keeping stats, and other guys going on, and they're going to play, 12, 13, 14, 15 games maybe. So they're going to lead the playoffs in scoring. So I just was doing it, and I was just like, let me just finish with the final score. So I kind of gave up on that product with the stats and just did the final score. But there's other products that I'm taking my time with, and obviously there's the trade-off. There's the time trade-off. If you want to keep stats, it's going to
manually.
Well, yeah, manually. It's going to take you some time. So if you're doing a project, and whether it's on pen and paper, or even in Excel, you're going to be taking time away from the project to do the stats. I know that's part of the fun for a lot of people. But I was watching the people talk about it. I was like, what are you using for stats? And some people are stirring pen and paper. Some people are stirring Excel. And some people, nope, I'm using the companion, computer games, and I'm letting the computer sim the rest of them. And there's some people who, again, if you play an entire season and keep stats pen and paper, oh my gosh, that's like the ultimate project. It really is. It is the ultimate hands-on, touchy-feely, you've done everything yourself project. I can't imagine ever doing that. I just don't think I could do it.
I think for that type of project, if you're manually playing out a cards and dice full season, regardless of the sport, that it's part of the game process. It's just part of that. That when you start the game, you play the game, and then at the end of it, you all compile it together, and then at some point, especially for like a baseball or something like that, you go, okay, today's compile day,
right?
And everything gets compiled. I know that we've talked with Gilles Thibault about the late Keith Russell and how he would do the slash marks to keep stats and keep like a series of games, a 3 or 4 game set. You'd have all the stats there, and it's just you just count everything at the end and go through. I know For me, as far as manual stat keeping is concerned, I go back to Lotus 1, 2, 3. How old am I? Lotus 1, 2, 3.
I think that was a Rammstein album, by the way.
Was it really?
I think so.
A spreadsheet. A spreadsheet and a heavy metal album. Okay. Define the formula. Okay. But again, I think it depends on how involved you want to be in the project. When you talked about the ultra quick final score hybrid you were doing, that's all just kind of tacked on at the end.
Yeah, it's window dressing at the end. Yeah.
As opposed to
seeing it play out. Something organic with you saw how those goals came about and want to keep track of it, or if you're just keeping a score sheet. I remember for the longest time you didn't even keep a score sheet when you were playing some of these games, and now that you do. So I would think that if you go through the process of just keeping score manually, that you'd be more apt to see to what happens at the end of that process, whether it's a tournament or full season or what have you. My other thinking on this was, I was playing, I think it was Apple Hockey, and I'm playing Apple Hockey, and there was a couple of people that were posting their spreadsheets, and they keep track of everything. I'm talking face-off wins, time on the ice. So when they get done playing their game, they had every stat, and it was quite amazing. And I play, and I get goals and assists, basically, and penalties is what I get. A couple of times when I was doubting the face-off chart in a couple of games, I did keep face-off stats. Just, which team won them and the whole bit. And it was interesting to see that, my perception of what was happening was not really what was happening. They were fairly equal at the end of the day. And so I'm looking at, like, what other people are doing. I'm like, it would be really nice at the end of the game to have all stats. How many minutes did Gretzky play? How many face-offs did he win? Time on ice for everybody. Who took how many shots on net? I mean, I'm playing that Hockey Bones North Stars Bruins series, and third-line right wing Dwight Foster has 5 points or 6 points in the 2 games. He's got 2 goals and an assist and a goal and 2 assists into 2 games. He's 3-3, I think, right now. He's leading everybody. I mean, I'm not getting anything from my big guys, but my third-line right winger is coming through. So it'd be fun to see, his time on ice versus his goals, how many shots on net he's actually taking, and the whole bit. So, part of me is like at the end of the game, it's like, man, I really wish I had all these stats. It'd be fun to look back on. I'm not sure what I would do with them, but I'm a numbers guy. I'm a stat guy. But at the same time, do I really want to tack on an extra 20 minutes, half hour, 45 minutes or more maybe to my game?
Depends on how attached you are to the project. And I would think that, if you were manually playing out, let's say the 78 Red Sox, you'd want to know how they're doing. Because you're using the game companion, that is all done for you. So all you have to do is look. But I think if you were to, let's say, if you were to do that 92-93 Bruins that you've talked about a couple times, doing every game, I think that, I don't feel like playing, but let me go through. I've got the handful of score sheets. Let's tally some things up. It's not something that, sometimes it's just easier to do at the end of a game. And if all you're going to do with, let's say, hockey is goals, assists, and saves and penalty minutes, that's not going to. If you lose 4-0, that's pretty easy. You just write down the penalty minutes. But if you want to keep track of shots, I know when I played Strat manually in college, we did goals, assists, points, shot totals, and penalty minutes along with saves and all that. It doesn't take that long. Again, depending on how often you do it.
Yeah.
So maybe one of those nights that instead of you want to kick back and do something else, like, okay, we'll just sit and pump this stuff in.
Well, I was kind of like looking at the end of this one guy's game, and he had everything. So when he won a face-off, he would go over the spreadsheet and click face-off win for this guy. When this guy took a shot, he would click shot. And it's some people that have created spreadsheets. And,
yes.
And so you write down everybody in the game. And
Macro City.
Every shot they take, a little check mark. Every time they win a face-off, a little check mark there. And so And so I look at these things, and I've never done that, but part of me is like tempted to give that a try, even though it's going to tack on a lot of extra time because you're logging in every event.
But if it's also an immersion thing, and I think it gets you to pay attention more to the game. I mean, the stat packages in Action PC and Strat for hockey are very robust.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they keep track of everything, how many times you were taking out the puck in face-offs and time on the ice and all that. And you really don't think that that's anything that you're ever going to pay attention to until you're looking at it going, oh, wow, okay, yeah, I get it. But again, it depends on if you budget that time in. I mean, if you are a quick game player, as in, no, I want to get this project, keep it moving and don't want to do that, I can see where you would just keep track of the bare bones, if not anything. But if you find yourself in the middle of enjoying something a great deal, or, geez, do I want to play this? I think manually keeping track of the stats like that is a great way to get re-immersed into a replay that you're taking a break from. Like, oh, yeah, I didn't realize that Neely scored the 3 goals in the 2 games. And you did it on 4 shots? Wow.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is that, you almost got to do that from the start, because if you start now, it's like, well, I'm 8 games into the season. Do I really want to start it now? Do I want to start over? And how important is that to me? And I find that, like, for at least right now, the longer projects, I kind of want to... I do want the stats, but at the same time, I don't know if I'm willing to put in the all that extra time, because then I like to jump from product to product, and the shiny keys over here are jingling, and I look over that way, and so for me, sometimes it's, if I have too many stats to keep track of, I don't get as many games in, and then that project tends to phase out a little bit more for me. Although maybe if I did keep all the stats, maybe I'd be so engrossed in it that maybe I would want to play more.
I'm not sure how important it is to keep track of face-offs and all. It depends on what you're interested in. But if you did goals, assists, points, penalty minutes, shots, and goalie stats, I think that would keep you enough interested in. And when you go, I can't believe that X happened, well, of course your defenseman with 3 goals under your scored twice. He took 12 shots.
Yeah.
In the score, but that sort of thing, just kind of prove it to yourself. And again, use it as a motivating factor for that. It's a double-edged sword. I've stopped replays because the stats, not keeping track of the stats, but looking at the stats going, this isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So
the companions definitely help, because you got the computer doing a lot of the heavy lifting. So that's why when I'm doing my 78 Sox replay, I can bang on a game really quick in Digital Diamond and just rolling the dice, put it in my codes, and the game's over, and I'm having fun with it. It plays really quick. Sometimes I wonder if I'm playing too quick. If I'm like, okay, ground ball, whoop, fly out, strike out, inning over. Am I even enjoying it at that point, because I'm flying through the game? But I'm banging out 2 or 3 games a night, and collectively I can look at all the games I've played and all the stats I kept with the Diamond game.
Well, I think we generally tend to slow down when there's runners on base anyway.
This is true.
To keep track of.
Yeah.
And outs and outs and out. And unless you know that maybe someone's got a no-hitter going, or is mowing, Nolan Ryan type strikeout performances with that, you might slow down. But again, it's taking care of the dead time and going down to, okay, what do I need to do now to manage the game?
Yeah.
And still, even I can do a game of Status Pro 20, 25 minutes. And again, I mean, that sounds fast on the surface, but you have to resolve anywhere between 60 and 80 plate appearances over the course of the game. You're resolving them. You're having it play out in your head. You're just skipping all the pitches until the decisive pitch. So it's not a ball until it's ball 4. It's not a strike until it's strike 3. There's no foul balls. There's no, so yeah, you distill a lot of that action anyway. And because the computer keeps all the stats, and you can choose what to see and what you want to see, what you don't want to see. Yeah,
like I said, I've tried the stat thing a few times with pen and paper, and it didn't go well for me. The Excel is definitely a little bit better. There's nothing for hockey right now. I mean, I've tried the Strat
The Strat utility?
Utility. I've tried the
and
utility.
It's really not meant for that, though.
It's not. I've worked around it, though, and I did try a couple things with that. I was playing a shootout season, and I was keeping all the stats, goals, assists, penalties, and shots, and I was putting that in to the the Strat utility there, and it was working. It just was very clunky and took a long time.
Yes.
And that's where I was in that. I think I got through October. I'm into November, and that's when it fizzled out. And I don't think I've been back to that project in a year and a half now. And it just was because I would play the game, and then I would have to go in, fiddle with the utility to put the stats in, make sure the stats are exactly right. There is a way to correct it, but it kind of screws things up if you make a mistake. So it was just enough of a pain in the neck that, and
right.
it was working though. It was working. When I go back and look at that project, the stats through the first week of November, it was kind of cool because everything was there. And that was, but it was shootout stats. But they were all done, and they were all done really nice, because that's what that program is designed to do is keep hockey stats. But man, oh man, it was just such a roundabout way of doing it that I stopped enjoying it. Is what I did.
And that's the other thing. I mean, stat collection should not be a perceived chore. Not everyone wants to go down to the minutia of how many face-offs did you win. Now, granted, there might be some players, such as if you're rated a 3 in Strat, how well do you do with that? But again, it's one of those things I think that you kind of have an idea of what you want to do at the start of a project, as opposed to what you end up doing. Now, football is an interesting thing because there's a lot of stats to be kept.
Yes.
For each individual touch of the football for a receiver and a running back, it's not only the fact that they made the touch, but how many yards did they get and how many passes did the quarterback complete. And again, the computer does a great job in getting all that, but if you were to do a manual cards and dice football replay, again, no computer, so we're not even talking manually rolling on Strat. How much of that would you keep? I'm sure some people probably have kept the full season. The full advantage of that is if you just do one team, it's 14, 16, 17 games as opposed to 162. Or even if you did a full NFL replay, it's 240 games as opposed to 2,430.
Yeah, there's that Tom Milne football helper is fantastic at that.
Yeah.
That keeps track of everything. You just no matter what game you're playing, you put in that, and it keeps track of the drives and the stat. It does everything. It really does. It's a fantastic program. So when I play football, I almost exclusively use that helper when I play football.
Very handy.
And unless I don't care about the stats, and then I'll use pen and paper, and I'll just be like, first and 10 on the 20, and I'll write it on a notepad and just kind of keep track of it that way. But I do like that keeps track of everything. And at the end of the day, you have all your stats and how many attempts and how many.
In a full box score.
In a full box score. It looks nice, and you can share it and whatever. So that's what I use almost exclusively for my replays. For football, and it does everything for me. It keeps all your stats. So football, I'm not worried about because that's the utility I use.
Right.
Baseball, we get so many to choose from, and the hockey is the other one that there's really no companion for hockey. So that's the one that if you want or basketball, yeah. So those are the two sports that get kind of left out in the cold for this.
In the Above the Rim, which is the wonderful Wayne Ponywa's Excel spreadsheet game with every NBA season available for free, it keeps track of the stats for you. And if you want to do a box score at the end of the game, there's actually a stat compiling macro that works with that game. So you could do a full team stats for one game. But for those who do manually play out cards and dice basketball, we've talked about that with Marco Walter's game, regular season basketball. He put together the matrix of how many shots someone took and that. And again, how immersive I think for me, this comes down to how immersive do you want to be? Yeah.
The PC Replay basketball, I believe, allows you to put in game stats.
Right, provided you have that season.
Yeah. And I've looked at it. I've never done it, but I've looked at it, and it seems like you put it in as much as you want, I guess.
Right.
And that tells you, You just input all the shots and attempts and whatever, and so that way there. So if you wanted to play a cards and dice basketball game and have the computer play the rest, PC Replay basketball would do that for you. The baseball, I think. I don't know if the baseball does it after the fact, but the baseball, you can input it in PC Replay baseball. I've actually I've actually done it after the fact. I've played a game, and then I've gone into PC Replay, and I've just kind of clicked around and put in all the scores. I did that a couple of years ago. It worked out rather nicely, actually, because you have the game done, you know exactly what happened. So you just click it on what happened, It only took me a couple of minutes to put in the entire game, so it does work like that. But you hit it on the head with something you said a minute ago about when you're going into a particular project, you pretty much know what you're looking for, and I think that's the key. So when I'm playing my shootout hockey Cleveland Barons replay from 77, 78, I'm not too concerned about all the tiny stats. I'm looking at goals and assists is what I'm doing.
Right.
And I'm not even keeping track of the goals and assists. I mean, I have the sheet, so if I wanted to, I could. But what I'm looking for this product is I'm looking for final scores. I'm looking for their final record, see who they beat. And when I do my little write-ups, I do have who scored in the game. However, that was a team that made a lot of trades. So it's unclear who played. I mean, I can look it up on Hockey Reference if I want to see who played in that game. So because they made so many trades that, maybe someone that scored in game 3 of the season wasn't even on the team. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, again, how deep do I want to get with these stats? Do I want to look at that and say, well, Joe Schmo was not on the Barons in October, so he shouldn't be scoring, and he just got a goal in this game. What do I do about that? How deep do I want to go into this dive? I mean, somebody scored a goal for the Barons, okay, in shootout hockey. There's no doubt about that. Who's going to get that goal, though? And if I'm not keeping track of goals and assists, well, even in shootout, it says to keep track of that because how shootout is designed, that whole season, it'll all come out in the wash. So even if a guy wasn't on the team in October and he gets a goal, count that goal because at the end of the season, it's going to be baked into how the cards are laid out. So that's what you're supposed to do with shootout.
Pretty much the same with Stone Cold, too, I would think.
Yeah, I think so. Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
But the idea is that, realistically, the guy wasn't on the team in that game, so he shouldn't be getting any points at all. But how the game is laid out, count those points at the end of the season, it all comes out in the wash type of bit.
Right.
But I'm using the goals and assists kind of for my write-ups. If I really wanted to, I think what I did with the Seals, when I did my Seals shootout replay years ago, I got final scores and that was it. And I didn't even keep track of goalies. I didn't keep track of who scored or any assists or anything like that. I just got final score. This time around, I'm getting the final score, but I'm keeping tracks of goals and assists for each team just in that game so I can write about it. And, when I look back, I can say, boy, this guy is in a lot of the write-ups, but I don't have a total I'm not going to keep a total tally of points, I don't think. I'll have the score sheet, so if I really, really want to...
Well, if you're only... How many games into are you?
I'm only 2 games in.
Well, just go ahead and start. I mean, you might as well.
I could.
It's goals and assists and column 1, column 2 gives you points.
Yeah, but the idea behind this product, getting to what you were saying, going into this product, I wanted to play shootout because I haven't played shootout in a while. I like the Barons because they're the old Seals team, and I want to see how they did in 77, 78. Not so much who did, but how they did,
right?
Meaning the team. So I want to see what I'm going to get for a final result for the team, not so much the individual players. I will have that in the score sheets. I will keep all the score sheets, and if
just figure if you just do it now,
then I can keep up with it, is what you're saying. But again,
right.
Do I want to? Is that something I want to do with this product? Would I rather play another game of shootout, or do I want to pop in stats?
For 3 goals a game, and we're not talking a lot here. We're not talking an NBA game.
Oh, no, right? I understand. And
besides, you're on that team.
I am on that team. And I had a chance to score a goal the other night, and I didn't score a goal. So
now, here's a question I have for you.
Okay.
Because my answer to this is not very often. When a project is done, and how often do you go back and refer to the old stats from a season or whatever that you've done? I'd be very curious on what you guys do out there, because I rarely do it. it's important to the project, and you've watched any of my streams, I spout off stats, but that's just to give the broadcast some color, not necessarily because I really care that Wade Boggs is hitting 342. It just makes it easier to say Wade Boggs is hitting 342.
I don't think, let me see, I don't think I've ever gone back into one and dug out the stats and oohed and ahed over them. I have kept some in folders. I do keep folders, some of my old pen and paper stuff that I have off to the side. The ones that stick out to me are the ones that I will talk about. I'll talk about that 72 Summit Series with shootout hockey with the homebrew cards. I don't even know where I got those cards. I don't remember who made them, but I got them a few years ago, and that was one epic series that I'll never forget. Now, do I pull out them and look at them? No, I don't, but I remember what happened in that series. There's a few other playoff series that I played that I remember and I talk about, but I don't necessarily go back and go through anything and revisit anything I've done. But I do, if it was memorable, then I do remember it, and that's something that I can talk about, like here on the show, or if we have a chat, about why do we play these games? Well, let me tell you about that series that I had with this, or let me tell you about this game that I had here, that what a comeback it was, and this World Series that I played, or whatever it was. So I don't necessarily go back and revisit any stats that I've kept, but if they were good enough, they will find a place in my brain somewhere, and I'll recall those stats from time to time.
Because a lot of those computer games have encyclopedia functions. So let's say you do a 5-year run of the Bruins or the Red Sox or something like that. Then you can keep track of, Rice hit 48 and 78 and 50 and 79 and 12 and 80 or whatever. I mean, obviously enough people do it that it's usually one of the more requested features when we hear about a new game coming out. Is it going to come with an encyclopedia function? And I always feel bad because, individual performances kind of stick out, or something happened on the stream that they got my attention. Okay, that's fine. It gets talked about. I remember that in my 82 replay that Steve Rogers had a monster year for Montreal. It's one of the reasons why they won the World Series. And that last year in my 85 replay, no one was beating John Tudor in the playoffs. I was starting to do like House of Cards stuff. No one was getting past the House of Tudor. And that's why the Cardinals swept the World Series. But as far as going through and saying it, the rest of it, like, okay, it's there, but it's not, it's done. And it's time to move on and whatever. But it's always there if you want to look at it. But I don't find myself ever really going back to say, so what did Ozzie Smith do in that replay?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever gone back myself. I mean, they're there, and whether it's on the computer or in a folder here somewhere, I do have stuff somewhere. But I tend to play and enjoy the project, and when I'm done, reminisce for a little bit afterwards. But then I move on to the next one. It's kind of what I do, and I don't dwell on anything very long that I've done. I don't think.
No, but again, I know of some people that do. I think the other thing is, now, because we have companions and computing power and pretty much endless space on hard drives, not that stats takes up a lot of room, I think what people were doing, it was a big deal if you were to sit there and do this 35, 40 years ago, because it would have to have been part of the whole gaming experience. Okay, I sat there and played these 3 games, and now I got to document what I did over these 3 games. They're already on the sheets. So now, I mean, again, you talked about when we started the topic about the guy that has a spreadsheet that keeps tracks of who wins the face-offs and how many minutes they're on the ice. And the first thing is, why would anyone care? But that sells what that person cares about short. Obviously, someone does because they keep track of it. Do you think that puts more pressure on you to keep track of these things because others do it?
I think it does a little bit, because I see some of the spreadsheets that people have put together, and it's like, holy cow,
they're marvelous. They're absolutely marvelous.
Awesome. It's like, I'm so jealous. I wish I could, have that and do blah, 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 blah. And again, I think it was the other day when I played a game, and I was like, man, I really wish I kept track of how many face-offs this guy won because I think it was in that Kings-Leafs game that I played.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Gretzky was in the disadvantage the entire game. I mean, the Leafs had the advantage on the faceoff the entire game, and Gretzky won most of the faceoffs he took. And that was the weird thing about it. So part of me wanted to say, how many did Gretzky, win actually, because it just felt like he won every faceoff, and it was like disadvantage right wing, disadvantage right wing, disadvantage right wing. So I was like, man, is the spreadsheet I was using for APA, was that broken because I was getting so many Gretzky faceoff wins disadvantage, or just is that how it rolled? So part of me would have liked to see how many faceoff Gretzky won and how many he lost. Part of me would like to see how many shots Dwight Foster took in that hockey game. So there's a little bit of that there was one game I got done and I really wished I had kept more stats. And part of me is thinking about, because there's been people that have created some really nice score sheets for games like APA and Hockey Bones, and I have a nice one myself that ID and myself put together, but it's really only a goals, assist, penalty type of thing. There's other spreadsheets out there that have you write every player and what line they're on, and you write down how many faceoffs, how many times they've taken a shot, and the whole bit, and so you get your goals and assists, but you get everything else as well, and part of me is looking at that saying, boy, I'd like to try that, and let me see how much longer did it take me to play this game, because if it's going to double the length of the game, then I got to really decide how bad do I want shots and face-offs and block shots and all this other stuff. I mean, how bad do I want that?
Let me play devil's advocate here for a second, or a reverse side of the coin. Okay. Forgetting about the time aspect of it, how much of that additional information would add to your enjoyment or frustration of what you're trying to do? I mean, you're sitting there in a game like In the Crease, where you're not really making any decisions, and everything is spelled out, and you have to determine where the puck goes based on, pass a checker or whatever. If it's already there, or something you got to write down, wouldn't it also add to your immersion in that situation? I know with a quick play game like a Stone Cold or a shootout or a final score, that it's all just kind of tacked on at the end, and yes, I could see where that would be. No, I really don't want that. But what I'm saying, that with the other things, such as if you're playing a long play game or a game that spells out specifically what happens, does that do you think that even with the increased time, that would add to your immersion and enjoyment or frustration?
I think it would add to the enjoyment of it, because again, with hockey, I'm all about stats and the whole bit. However, I shied away from playing APA hockey and Hockey Bones because it was taking me almost 2 hours to play a game. Now we have these terrific Excel helpers. Okay,
9 dice rolls at a time, for crying out loud.
And this is speeding up the game. It's speeding up both games, because I don't have to roll hundreds of times. I can hit the roll button, get all my rolls, and solve the play. So the game is playing quicker now, which is, again, even shaving 10, 15, 20 minutes off of one of these games, it's now mentally, it's put me in a frame of mind that I want to play these more now, because they're more attainable. Okay, because if I look, it's like, if it's 10 o'clock at night, man, do I really want to set up a game of APA Hockey or Hockey Bones? It's going to take me an hour and a half, 2 hours. Now it's midnight. Right. Do I want to do that? Where if it's like, man, this is going to be closer to an hour 10, well, now 10 o'clock, I can start it up. I'm done a little after 11. It's much more of a tempting thing to do. It's kind of like when I go on to and I go, like, sometimes I like to watch a movie. If I click in a movie, it's like an hour 15 minutes, I will be more apt to sit and watch that movie than if the movie's 2 hours long. Okay,
you're not starting up Gone with the Wind at 11 o'clock at night?
Well,
I can't understand why.
Yeah, it's just like, sometimes I don't want to sit in front of the TV for 2 hours watching a movie, no matter how good the movie is. So I look for the movies that are lesser time, and that's kind of how I am with some of my games. Sometimes, not all the time. So if I'm sitting there and I'm using Excel spreadsheets to speed up the game, but yet I'm going to stop and keep track of every single thing that happens in the game, I'm not really saving any time.
No.
So, again, that's what I'm wrestling with. It's the time it takes to play some of these games. And I will say, even with APA, I got to say, since I got the spreadsheet and the game is playing a lot faster, I've cut out a few things from APA that I used to do. I've cut out the matchups when you roll a 53. Those are optional. I've cut those out. I used to use them all the time, but the game stops. You pull out the chart, you see who the matchup is, and a lot of time it's either going to lead to a shot or it's going to lead to just, an interception. It is fun having those matchups in the game, but I've cut them out, and I haven't missed them. I'm slowly turning APA hockey more like a Hockey Bones type of experience. Because Hockey Bones is so streamlined in the way it plays. It was just a lot of dice rolls. So I'm doing that with APA now. So I've cut out the matchups. Even the line changes, I'm not really doing the dump-in stuff anymore. And I love the dump-in. I do. I love the dump-in on the line changes. It's not all the time. It's once in a while. But it does add a little bit of fun to have some digging in the corner. Lately, I've cut that out and just gone to a straight-up line change. The game plays faster for me when I do it that way. So I've been cutting out some of the options in APA hockey that I always liked because I can get a quicker game in and still feel like I've played the game. I don't feel like I'm missing anything.
Yeah, I think that's
not using these things. And like I say, a few months ago, I was all about as deep as I could get with APA. Every option, I want to use every option in the game because I really like all the options that, for hockey. I'm a hockey guy. I wanted all those options. Now I'm finding, though, I'm trimming the fat, so to speak. I'm getting a much streamlined game. I'm playing more games. And now, again, last night at 10 o'clock, I slapped down the mat and I pulled out a game, So I wasn't afraid at all to to play a game of APA hockey or Hockey Bones. I wasn't afraid because I know I can, with the spreadsheet, I can bang it out. So do I want to keep track of every little thing now that I'm streamlining the game? I don't know. Yeah,
I think it's, again, for all of us, it's just a giant experiment anyway.
I might like it. Maybe if I did it, I'd be like, oh, man, this is great. The end of it, because sometimes when you've done a long game like that, you're like, wow, that was great. You look back at everything that happened. You remember the game. You do a quick little write-up, and it's like, oh, this is great. You know what I mean?
And I think that's the thing, whatever it is, because it really is all about the engine between our ears. How we play these things is a different story, but whatever makes Dave's engine work, or what makes Ron's engine work, or my wife who was just upstairs a minute ago, as you heard, whatever that is. And I know for me, because mostly everything I do is computerized to some extent, that it's all just there and taken care of by something else. And so I worry about the coaching or the making the substitution or blah, 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 and able to, in the middle of the game, go, gosh, so-and-so is just chucking up bricks all of a sudden, couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, can't find the strike zone, whatever your bad or good thing is. You go back through and check, and the game box score tells you exactly what's happened over the course of the game, and it's not as bad as I thought, or, oh, my God, he is 3 for 17 from the field. Why am I still playing? That sort of thing, kind of as a guide, and goes back to keeping the score on the score sheets before, back in the pre-computer days. I was like, oh, how many stupid penalties is Mario Lemieux going to take tonight?
Yeah.
Not that Mario ever took, but you know where I'm going with that. And so, yeah, I think it depends on what you want to do on any given night. And we all suffer from MGD, multiple game disorder, and multiple project disorder. And, what do you, maybe you do try to do the project that gives you the full experience of, I don't think I'd ever keep track of face-offs for everybody. It's neat when a game does that, though.
But it would be fun at the end of the game to see how many face-offs Gretzky won or how many he lost. You know what I mean? That way, it just adds, like I say, at the end of the day, you're like, okay, so, the Kings lost to the Leafs. Well, Gretzky, he lost, he was 60-40 on face-offs, and maybe if he did better, they would have won. So I don't know. Part of me's thinking about giving it a try. He's printing out one of those spreadsheets with everybody's name on there, or whatever score sheet, and then keeping track of every little thing that happens, and just see if that adds to the game or if it doesn't add to the game.
Well, you talked about whether you would do the Leafs and the Habs from '93. That's at most a 7-game project. Try for that.
Yeah, maybe I could try that and see how it goes. But I got these games streaming so quickly now on my desktop because of the spreadsheets. I would hate to go and now tack on time to but if it's going to be fun, I guess I'll know. I guess I need to try it.
I think in a longer play game like that, it's not a tack on.
Oh, no, it's not. Yeah.
You've seen it happen.
Yeah. And
just putting the little check mark next to Kirk Muller's name that he took a shot is a split-second thing. As opposed to, okay, I got 5 goals here. Let's roll to see who gets the goals and who gets the assist.
Yeah.
Worth it. I mean, if you don't like it, you don't like it.
Yeah, I should try it and see how it goes. But I get a little jealous when I see people that have all the stats for the entire game and I don't. But then I wonder, do I want to spend that time on that? Is that something that I really want to do? Is that going to be enjoyment for me? Is it just going to be time taken away from game I can play? So I guess it's up to the individual. Some people just want final scores. Some people want a little bit of stats. Some people want a little bit more. And then some people want every single thing they can get.
I guess to sum it up for me is I like seeing it during the game. I like seeing what's going on during the game. As far as after the game's over, once in a while, I got to say, I'm going to have to restart that 85-86 Celtics replay because I was playing it wrong. It's amazing what happens when you actually let the computer run your defense for you and how much better it gets. But yeah, once in a while you kind of sit there and go, you and I are just kind of chatting over the course of the evening. It's like, yeah, they've won their games by an average of 15 points. And then you look through and go, and my goodness, they did this and he did that and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, yes and no, but primarily more for me as a coaching aid as opposed to look what happened on this given date sort of thing. And I know there are people who do what happened on this given date.
Mm-hmm. So I might try that. I might see about if I can find one of those score sheets there and keep track of a little bit of everything and see if I enjoy it or not, or see if that's just gonna, because like I said, I got the game moving. It's like, okay, this is okay, roll again, okay, shot save, roll again, okay, and I got the game moving pretty quick. And not that it's a race, but sometimes it's if I can look up, say, geez, it took me over an hour to play this game, whereas that took me 2 hours to play this game.
Well, I think if you're manually keeping track of the stats, it'd be one thing if you had to do it like I do. Okay, I got a spreadsheet to play the game on or whatever. I'm rolling the dice, and I got to stop and record all the action on an Excel spreadsheet while I'm playing the game. Yeah, that slows it down. But if you're just checking boxes on a score sheet you've already filled out anyway, I can't imagine it's going to add that much more time. You love the game prep.
Yeah. Well, I am enjoying the shaved off time for the games. You talk about the pitch clock in baseball. I'm enjoying these spreadsheets that have really shaved time off these games because I can play the game, still enjoy it, still get the full game in, feel like I've been at the full game. It just takes less time.
And that, in the end, is there. Whatever you do, whether you keep mega stats or do the old Bob Prince, Jim Woods, chuck the score sheet in the garbage when the game is done. Whatever gives you the full feeling. I mean, we want something in us to be satisfied at the end of the game.
Yeah, and we want to know what you guys do with stats because again, there's people that just race through the game, they get the final score, and they're done. And there's other people who don't mind taking hours to play a game and keeping track of every single thing, and that's how they get the enjoyment on it. And nobody is wrong in how they play
it.
Not at all. But it's just all of personal preference. And so I'm wondering if I really try to dig deep into some hockey stats, if it's going to add to the immersion or if it's going to take away.
I just think in a short series, I think you'd enjoy it.
Yeah, and it might be fun. It's something to talk about. Stats are something to talk about is what it is. And so maybe keeping all those stats is something that would be fun and talk about there. So anyway, well, should we get to our 3 stars of the week?
Absolutely.
All righty. Our first star, actually our third star, in no particular order, but our third star in episode 180 is Bernie Strom.
Woohoo!
All right, and Bernie just launched his YouTube channel, so you might want to check that out. So our third star is Bernie Strom. Our second star is Mark Kroinovich. Woohoo! Mark, thank you so much for supporting the show. And the number one star here in episode 180, brand new Patreon of ours, is, I hope I say his name right, Thomas Gerbosi.
Yay!
Hopefully I said that right, Thomas. I'm not always the best at pronunciations here, but Thomas is one of our newest patrons. Gerbasi. I'm sorry, Gerbasi. Thomas Gerbasi.
Think of a kielbasa.
Or Gerbasi. I'm not sure. Thomas, I'm sorry. If you get the email, just correct me on that. We'll get it right the next time. But Thomas G, thank you so much for being a new Patreon supporter here on the show. All right, so let's wrap up episode 180. So you have been listening to the Digital to Dice podcast. Ways to get a hold of us. digitaltodice.com is the website. 978-751-DICE is how you can send us a text. Our Facebook is facebook.com/groups/digital-to-dice. And over on, the Patreon. Again, if you'd like to support the show, patreon.com/digital-to-dice. And you can, we might be doing a really fun Patreon-only event, Ron and myself. We might be playing this Tiny Epic Defenders game.
Looking forward to that, yeah.
Yeah, it's a multiplayer game. And it's something we could do right over StreamYard with the overhead camera, and we could try to save the kingdom, so to speak. So I think Ron and I might try to do that at some point. So that might be our next Patreon event. As we now that the good weather's here and neither one of us are sick and there's no holidays, we should probably be getting to a lot more Patreon events. Hopefully as we get going here. So anyway, all righty, I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
Talk to everybody later.
Bye-bye.